was Mother's Day of 2017 in Colton, Oregon, a small rural town about an hour outside of Portland. Tina Marie Webb had spent the entire day at home with her 36-year-old son Joshua. He still lived with her. Josh had some health trouble, and Tina, being the loving mother that she was, she just wanted to take care of her son. But sometime that afternoon, something inside Joshua just snapped. A little later that afternoon, 13 miles away, customers at a small grocery store called the Harvest Market Thriftaway in the nearby town of Estacada were going about their Sunday shopping when a man walked in carrying a knife covered in blood and a grocery bag. Employees said that he just looked completely blank and emotionless. Shortly after arriving, he just walked up to a store clerk named Mike Wagner and just started stabbing him. The man was quickly tackled to the ground and pinned down by some brave and courageous employees. A 911 operator picked up a call from someone at the market at around 2:14 p.m. Police arrived just minutes later, where they quickly realized this wasn't just an isolated stabbing. Inside that grocery bag, they found a human head. And back at Joshua's home in Colton, they found the body of 59-year-old Tina, his mother, along with the family dog. Both had been brutally killed. Joshua Webb was immediately arrested, but he barely responded to police and seemed to be in some kind of catatonic trance. Joshua was later diagnosed with schizophrenia and found guilty except for insanity. He's currently housed at the Oregon State Hospital under lifetime supervision. In 2024, however, doctors recommended moving him to a lower security facility. The community obviously pushed back on this quite heavily. Victims' families, even state officials, said someone who did something as brutal as he did should never be in a place with less oversight, and I completely agree. After the incident at the store, Mike Wagner was rushed to a hospital where he was treated for his injuries, and miraculously, he would fully recover. As of now, Joshua Webb remains in psychiatric custody, but the idea that he could one day be moved or released still hangs over the families involved as well as everybody else in that town. 2 days ago, on May 13th of 2025, 23-year-old beauty influencer from Jalisco, Mexico, was live streaming on TikTok from inside her salon, Blossom the Beauty Lounge. During the live, Valeria was seen talking to someone off screen. This was supposedly a friend of hers. She mentioned something about her friend who had an expensive gift being delivered to her salon, but only she could receive it. Valeria was a bit concerned about this. It seemed a bit weird. There were several times throughout the stream that she tried to leave, and her friend insisted that she stick around, even getting her Starbucks and a cute little stuffy fellow. It was shortly after this that a man entered the shop dressed as none other than a delivery driver. He asked if she was Valeria, and when she said yes, he pulled out a gun and shot her 3 times. Viewers in the live saw the entire thing unfold, and shortly after it happened, another face appeared on screen, and then the live ended. The fake delivery driver fled the scene on a motorcycle, and Valeria died at the salon before paramedics could even arrive. The Mexican authorities are treating her death as femicide, and for you less crime-savvy folk, that means it was a gender-based killing. While no suspects have been named publicly or anything, investigators are also looking into personal relationships, including a past boyfriend of hers that she had previously referenced in a few posts. One of them supposedly claiming if anything ever happened to her, he would be the reason. Her death has shaken up the influencer community quite a bit now, and there's videos all over TikTok and pretty much everywhere all about it. And in Mexico, as sad as it is to say, femicides are tragically common, and Valeria's murder carried out in front of a live audience feels like a horrifying example of that problem as a whole. There's a lot of speculation right now as to what really happened. Some are even claiming that the lady who ended the live stream could have been responsible for setting her up. Others are saying that her boyfriend was in the cartel, but we don't really know for sure. So make sure to hit that follow button so I can keep you guys up to date as the situation unfolds. On July 10th of 1998, Kamiyah Mobley gave birth to her first child, Kamiyah, at University Medical Center in Jacksonville, Florida. Just 8 hours later, a nurse walked in her room. She calmly spoke to her and said that the newborn baby needed some routine tests. So Kamiyah handed over her baby and awaited her return. But that nurse never came back. You see, her name was Gloria Williams. She'd recently suffered a miscarriage, and in a state of an emotional collapse, she drove Kamiyah nearly 200 miles back to Walterboro, South Carolina. Upon arrival, she renamed her to Alexis Manigo, and she just raised her as her own kid as if nothing ever happened. So for the next 18 years, Kamiyah grew up in this home, and she had no clue that she wasn't Gloria's real daughter. She went to school, had friends, even got a boyfriend. Everything seemed normal until she tried to apply for her first job at 16 and realized that she had no social security number and there was no birth certificate. That's when Gloria finally sat her down and confessed to exactly what happened. But Kamiyah didn't turn her in or try to run away or anything like that. She stayed and kept the secret and tried to live with that truth. However, that wouldn't last long either because someone else came forward. In 2016, 2 anonymous tips were submitted to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. The details seemed to line up, so investigators tracked down the girl known as Alexis and performed a DNA test. In early 2017, it confirmed the police's suspicions. She was, in fact, Kamiyah Mobley, the baby that was stolen from a hospital nearly 2 decades earlier. She was reunited with her biological parents, Shannara and Craig, who had spent years begging for answers. She had aged a bit, of course, and she wasn't crying all the time anymore, but it was still their baby. Gloria Williams was arrested. She pled guilty and in 2018 was sentenced to 18 years for kidnapping and interference with custody. Even then, Kamiyah publicly supported her, saying in a statement, "I need my mother home." Her story made headlines across the country. There was a book, a movie, and loads of interviews on TV. But behind all that is a girl still trying to figure out who she really is. She can't figure out if she wants the life that was stolen from her or the only one that she ever really knew. At around 3 in the morning on May 3rd, earlier this month in 2025, in Spotsylvania, Virginia, Michael Bosworth Jr., who was a senior at the Massaponax High School, was out on the night before their prom with a couple of his buddies filming some TikTok pranks. They were doing some ding-dong ditch, you know, like knocking on doors and sprinting off laughing while your friends record the reactions. Well, the man inside the house on Mackenzie Lane didn't think it was very funny. His name was Tyler Butler. He said that he thought someone was trying to break into his home. So he grabbed his gun and opened fire as the boys ran to hide. Michael would end up being hit in the torso with one of these bullets, along with one of his friends who was also grazed by one. Tyler ended up calling 911, claiming that there was an attempted break-in at his home, and his friends called 911 to try to get help for Michael. Michael was then rushed to Mary Washington Hospital, but sadly, he didn't make it. At first, the sheriff's office didn't charge the shooter, as it seemed like some sort of self-defense claim. But after reviewing the surveillance footage and realizing there was no actual threat, they arrested Butler 3 days later. He was charged with second-degree murder, malicious wounding, and 2 firearm offenses. Michael was about 2 weeks away from graduating. His dad told interviewers that he played lacrosse, football, and wrestled. He was a very well-loved and funny kid who had just turned 18. Michael's girlfriend wore his bow tie to honor him at their senior prom, which is somewhere that Michael should have been. If you have any cases you'd like to see covered, please leave them in the comments below, and make sure to hit that follow button so you can be notified when I post them.